Welcome to the Ad Nauseam podcast, where classical gourmands everywhere can finally get their fill. Join us for a delectable discussion of Greco-Roman civilization stretching from the Minoans and Mycenaeans through the Renaissance and right down to the present. And now, ladies and gentlemen, here are your hosts, Dr. David Noe and Dr. Jeff Winkle.
Welcome to the Ad Nauseam podcast, episode 95. We are creeping toward 100, aren't we, Jeff?
Are we going to do something special for that huge anniversary?
I've been trying to drum something up here. We got people working on it, our intellectual gnomes.
Some kind of grand giveaway?
I don't think so.
Oh, no, we're not giving away anything.
No. We'll give away the farm, maybe.
Yeah.
No, it's going to be some kind of a best of, greatest hits.
Fantastic.
Cheesy clip show, something like that.
I would hope by 100 episodes we have some actual best of in there somewhere.
Yeah, I think we do.
Yeah.
Somewhere, deep down.
Yeah.
I know it's not in the episode, Can You Spare a Square? Horror Vacui in the Dipolon vase.
You bring that one up a lot.
I loved that.
That sticks in your craw, doesn't it?
Yes, it's in my craw. It was very hurtful that the audience didn't care for that.
Well, maybe...
We slave and labor away.
I know.
And they don't like it.
I know. Well, they can always go back and check it out.
Okay.
Right? Okay. Yeah.
What's one that you are especially fond of, to which the audience did not cotton?
I gotta say it's the one that where we brugled the audience.
Oh,
yeah, remember that
yes.
one? Yeah.
Yes, two thin guys eating a fat guy.
Oh, yeah.
Bruegel painting.
That's great stuff.
It's genius.
I just talked about it in my myth class yesterday.
That's the Fall of Icarus.
The Fall of Icarus, right?
By was it Hans Bruegel? Peter Bruegel.
Peter Bruegel, right? Where it's the hidden picture where he's kind of kicking his legs in the corner.
That's right. And the partridge in the tree that's laughing.
Yeah.
But people didn't like it.
Well, they didn't pay any attention to it.
You think that's it?
But my students yesterday, they were eating it up. They loved it. And so I'm thinking that...
Of course, their grade depends on it.
That is true. That's true, right? But Horror Vacui, the Bruegel episode probably won't make it into the best of.
No, there were a couple Odyssey episodes that were kind of dogs, too.
I know.
They died quicker than Argo upon Odysseus' return.
That's right. Hey, let's stop talking about kind of the negative
stuff. Okay, all right.
That's right. So you want to start us off with
I want to ask how you're doing, Jeff.
Oh, I'm doing well. I just finished my first week of classes back in the semester, so things are really busy. And I'm always surprised by kind of how much that wave hits me in that first week.
Yeah.
But it's been good. My classes seem to be populated with chatty, eager students, which helps a lot.
Yes.
And so I cannot complain.
All right.
How about you?
Well, I'm back doing some teaching this week, too, in the classroom. Local seminary, teaching some Greek, teaching some Latin.
Nice.
Enjoying it very much. Students have asked me, are you excited about teaching there? I don't use the E word, frankly.
You don't get excited?
No.
No?
No. No. But I am enjoying it. And, for those of you who teach, you probably have this phenomenon. I'm not sure. At least I always do. The first week back, my voice is a little strained.
Yeah.
Because
totally.
I'm not used to talking for, say, 3, 4, 5 hours. And
right.
It's not all lecture, but there's a large volume of talking. So
that's right. That's why you have the big mug of tea with you.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So that helps a little bit. Sip the tea.
Or some coffee from Ratio.
Yeah.
Speaking of coffee from Ratio, it's...
No, not yet.
Sorry, it's too soon.
Yet. Right. So, I'm glad to hear you're doing well.
Yeah, thanks.
And I do get excited.
Yes,
right? And it's exciting for me to hear about you being back in the classroom, which is, I think, a place where you belong.
Well, that's very nice of you.
Yes,
thanks.
absolutely.
I do enjoy that. Speaking of back in the classroom, we need to give a shout out.
Yes, who's this to?
And this goes to one Matt Bell. And I asked, can I give you a shout out? And he replied with, sure! Exclamation point.
Fantastic.
That's great enthusiasm. He says, I am beginning my second year of teaching Latin to grades 3-6 at Westminster Academy in Memphis, Tennessee.
I was just in Memphis.
Were you?
Yeah, just in July. Yeah.
Walking with your feet...
10 feet off a Beale.
There you go.
Yeah.
I never took Latin in school, he says, but learned Spanish first and am mostly self-taught in Latin.
Wow.
I admire that because, of course, you have to be both a good teacher and a good student.
Absolutely.
If you're going to be self-taught.
Yeah.
In 2018, during my first year of teaching a little Latin, I attended a spoken Latin biduum with Dr. Noe and colleagues in Fort Worth, and I was hooked.
Do you remember this biduum?
Don't put me on this. Oh, I remember the biduum. Yes, very well. Mr. Bell.
Do you remember Mr. Bell?
His name doesn't ring something. I got to say that. But we hooked him, We threw out the line with some Latinate bait on the end, and we got him. So you want to continue there?
Yes, he says, on the drive home from that biduum, he began to have a dreadful but exciting feeling that he would have to learn and teach this new language. Wow, so he really felt, he wasn't just hooked, he felt like called to share it.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah. He says, I love my job because Latin can feel overwhelming, but I get to make it accessible for such young children.
Oh, that's great.
So, like, I have never taught Latin on that particular level, and,
Right.
and I find that particularly admirable.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
I was talking to a former student this week, and she lives here in Grand Rapids. She's teaching at a local school. She stepped into a job that I had gotten started, and I said, how's it going? She said, I have multiple kindergartners who know the forms of esse.
That is crazy.
Sum es est, sumus estis. Oh, that is so great.
It's fantastic.
Yeah. So Matt continues, I am really enjoying listening to the Aeneid episodes to supplement my first reading of the Aeneid. I have also read the Iliad and the Odyssey in the last year with Noe and Winkle as my guides.
Oh, man.
Couple
Hats
of
off to you.
yahoos.
Yeah, no doubt. Careful.
While I always enjoy the podcast, I think it becomes an extra valuable resource when you do a series of episodes on a longer work.
Right.
That's good to know.
It is good to know. I mean, I know that we both kind of wrestle with it.
Right.
How much do you do one-offs or series? And we're knee deep. We're not even halfway through the Aeneid right now.
No, we're just in book 5.
Yep. Yeah.
And the feedback's kind of mixed, So many people tell us, I love those long series. Others, they seem to enjoy the variety more.
Yep.
So I guess maybe you can't please everybody.
You cannot.
No. How does he wrap it up here?
He says, I love to sing and write music in the early American shape note tradition. Do you know what that is?
I don't. I was going to ask you.
No, I have not heard of that.
Don't all notes have a shape?
I'm going to have to listen to his stuff to kind of figure this out.
Okay.
And some of my jams can be heard at memphisharmony.bandcamp.com.
Oh, we've plugged him now.
Excellent. Fantastic.
Yeah, check it out, I think.
Yeah.
Have you been there?
I have not been to Memphis Harmony.
Taking some risks.
right, so-
Okay. Thank you so much, Matt, for listening.
Yeah.
Thanks for the shout out. We really appreciate your Latin teaching. You're keeping the flame alive for the classics and for being a listener to this episode, to this program.
Many, many thanks.
Yep.
All right. So, Dave, what are we talking about?
Today we're going to go into Aeneid 5. We're taking, resuming, right, this multi-episode look at Vergil's famous work.
Yeah.
And coming off the Renaissance idea of human dignity.
Yes.
Seemed to be a pretty popular episode. People seem to like it. We're going to go back into episode 5, which is the funeral games.
Right.
Now, this one is, to some people's minds, a sleeper.
Yes.
Right? It's a sleeper. It's like the Super Bowl halftime show. You know what I'm talking about? So the sports fans, I think they tune in for the sports.
Yes.
The sporting, the big guy standing on the sidelines, breathing dramatically, right?
Right.
But the halftime show is obligatory. It's got to be there. And
Yeah.
oftentimes, they're not very good.
That's very true. But I mean, the irony of it is, of course, this book is packed with sports.
Yeah, that is ironic, isn't it?
There's lots of games going on there.
So you'd think people would love it.
Well, I have to say this. I remember when we wrapped up the last episode and we were talking about, we got to get into book 5.
Making some plans.
And I was thinking, that's never been one of my favorites. And it's been years since I read it. But I remember in graduate school, my professor in that seminar was kind of stressing, this is a filler book.
Really?
Right. And he
Don't give us the name of that person.
I will not.
Because that's a bad opinion.
It is. And I agree. And I believe that in that seminar, we kind of quickly skipped over it to get to book 6. And so I think I'd have to check, but I think if you were to look at like abridged versions of the Aeneid, this is one of the books that's cut out, right?
Right. It was voted most likely not to succeed in its high school class.
Right, exactly. Poor guy.
Yeah, book 5.
But having reread it over the past week, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. Now, I don't know kind of in terms of kind of the big, we can cover these big questions. What is its place in the larger epic?
Yep.
I think that's those are important questions. But in terms of just kind of the raw entertainment of the book, I really liked it.
Yes, and there's also some comic moments.
Very comic moments.
Virgil's not known for these.
No.
And it's often a question in my mind, why doesn't Vergil have more frivolity? Why isn't it lighter sometimes? Ovid, he can't resist telling a joke. He starts in on something serious and then, he goes for what's funny.
Right.
And while I really enjoy that, it makes him less profound.
Yes.
But Vergil, it's almost wearying how significant are all of his ideas.
Right.
But not this book.
Not this book. And it also really struck me is, when I think about Vergil and at least kind of the traditions handed down about him and what kind of man he was, this doesn't strike me as a guy who would know a lot about sports.
No.
But his descriptions of these games are phenomenal. And he had to have seen these things from the front row.
Yes. I think you're right.
You can't. Nobody could write like this about these things without knowing these games, these kinds of games intimately.
Or maybe having been a participant.
Yeah, that's even more harder to believe again with the kind of the picture that I have of Vergil. But so at least it shakes that up. For me. Yeah.
Well, let's have another comparison here to Ovid. I'm thinking about the story of Daedalus and Icarus, the famous story,
Yes.
and there's an element there in which he's describing Daedalus trying to make the wings. He's finishing the task, and Icarus is trying to help his dad.
But he's getting in the way.
He's messing it all up.
Yes.
And I don't think that you could have written that passage with such tenderness and insight if you weren't a dad.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, very good point.
You ask your son, hey, come help me with this, and if they're very young, you're just really enjoying their company because they can't do very much.
They can't do very much.
But if you don't help them, they'll never do anything.
Right. You just have to resign yourself that this task is going to take about 4 times as long as,
Exactly.
as it ought to.
And things are going to be lost, right?
Exactly.
So I think maybe Ovid was a dad because how else would he know that? Similarly,
Yes.
Vergil seems to have some keen personal insight into athletics.
Yeah.
But there are bigger themes in the book too.
Yes.
There is the rescue of the ships from a Junonian plot, right? Where Juno tries to torch all the ships and strand everybody on the island of Sicily.
Right. She's so desperate for this fate not to come to fruition.
Right.
Yeah. So I think there's lots of. I mean, certainly the end of the book it takes a fairly sharp turn from kind of the light to the serious.
That's right. Yeah. And there's tremendous kind of narrative arc because we will see this individual Palinurus. He is the Vergilian Elpenor,
Yes,
right?
exactly.
And Elpenor, for those of you who didn't bother to listen to all the Odyssey episodes, you got to tell me to calm down here.
You're all right. Yeah, just
Okay,
breathe
all right.
easy. Breathe easy. Yeah.
All right. Elpenor was one of Odysseus' crewmen who fell off Circe's roof and ended up in the underworld. Nobody knew about it till they got there.
Right.
Similarly, Palinurus is going to meet a sad fate.
He is, though his fate is much more. Unlike Elpenor, it's under the banner of he's kind of a necessary sacrificial victim.
That's right.
To Juno.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so we get him at the beginning of the book, a little foreshadowing, and right at the end of the book. So before we get into the details, there's one more important foreshadowing here.
Yeah.
And that's the character of Nisus and Euryalus. They're big in this book. You want to talk about that a minute?
Are these the guys that are in the foot race?
That's correct.
Yeah.
The older man and the younger man, they may be lovers. They're close friends for sure. Vergil's not really clear on that, I would say. It's had many different interpretations over the past.
There is language that he says like the one had kind of an intense love for the other.
Correct.
Right? Which could imply a number of things.
That's right.
Yeah.
And we're not going to try to determine it in the course of our interpretation.
Right.
Because I don't think you can. But there's an important event that happens in the foot race, which will be significant for, I believe it's book 9.
I'm not exactly. I don't remember. I don't follow where you're going with this. I'm
Okay,
interested.
well then
let's hang on to it.
I don't want to spoil it for you.
I mean, I love that foot race. I mean, I think it's also imbued with kind of a darkly comic, gross out effect.
Yes, it's grotesque, and that's significant too for what happens later on with the Rutulians.
Okay, all
so
right.
We'll leave it there.
Okay, all right.
So Jeff, we got an opening quote, don't we?
Shall I read this?
I would love for you to do that.
This comes from a guy who's I love the name. His name's Roger Dunkel. Right?
Say that again.
Roger Dunkel.
Is that K-L-E or K-E-L?
That's K-L-E, like Winkle.
Right.
So I'm always drawn to people who had kind of an odd last name like myself. Right? I'm sure Mr. Dunkel kind of heard some...
some
he
joking
got some
as
ribbing.
a kid.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you sell donuts? Things like that?
Oh, exactly, right. Yeah.
Dunkel's Donuts.
Exactly. Another kind of riffs on his name, right?
Did you get some of that as a kid?
I've heard them all.
Well, give us an example.
Like in 4th grade, like calling me Twinkle Toes.
Oh, really?
Was supposed to really get my goat, right? Yeah. Winkle Tinkle.
That's
I've
terrible.
I've heard them all. Yeah.
Did it embitter you and drive you into a life of classics?
It irritated me at first, but it also made me realize fairly early on that says, if I'm going to thrive, I have to develop a sense of humor about myself.
Yes.
And self-deprecation. Mm-hmm. And so I think...
Have you done that?
I have, yes. And
I know you have.
It's been a very important handmaiden to my social life.
Okay, Roger Dunkel.
Yes.
This is from Classical Journal, right?
Yep, from 17 years ago, an article called Games in Transition, Aeneid 3 and 5. So he writes, the funeral games for Anchises have always posed a problem in the interpretation of the Aeneid. Some scholars have seen Vergil's games primarily as a contrasting interlude with little thematic relevance for the poem as a whole, which I would say my graduate professor, he would fall into that camp.
Yeah, so the phrase there is little thematic relevance for the poem as a whole. So that's what we want to think about.
It's a breath, a needed breath from lots of intensity before the intensity cranks up again. Dunkel continues. For example, R.D. Williams has written that Book 5, like Book 3, provides a relaxation of tension, a diminution of emotional involvement on the part of the reader, and a breathing space, and described the games as lighthearted and carefree.
Okay, can I interrupt for a second?
Please.
All right, so one of my least favorite activities is going through TSA.
Oh, yes.
In order to fly
you and
anywhere.
millions of other people.
Yeah,
right.
we hate it, don't we?
Yes.
I should start a club. Anyway, but when you finally make it through TSA and you put back on your shoes, your belt, all your clothes, you get all your belongings saddled back up and you schlep them to the gate and you sit down, that's a feeling of sweet relief.
It's
I
very
made
true.
it. I'm free. They can't stop me now. I'm on my way to my destination.
Yes.
That's kind of like how I would see Book 5, in a shallow kind of way, right? They got free of Carthage. They made it through TSA. Now they're at the gate. They're ready finally to get into Italy. And it doesn't really have much significance, like sitting around at the gate waiting for the
time.
plane.
If you have some time, you can go get a Cinnabon.
That's right.
Right?
Or what are those pretzels? Those terrible pretzels?
Is that the like Auntie Anne's
Yeah,
or
the
Wetzel's?
airport is the last place I want to chew a pretzel.
Let's load up on 6 pounds of carbs.
It's terrible.
Right.
It's ropey.
Right. I like that a lot.
So you think they're ever going to be a sponsor? The pretzel people?
Not anymore.
Okay.
Not after this. I like that. So this is kind of the beyond the TSA
Correct.
Episode.
You're safe at the gate.
Right. I was like, Dunkel continues. Accustomed to the sober tone of the Aeneid as a whole, scholars often find the games an unsettling departure from high seriousness and assign them a diminished thematic significance, as if mere athletic contests could not have played an important role in the poet's design.
Oh, no, that's an interesting point. So it's not just that it's a breather and it's dull, but there's an anti-athletic kind of attitude that takes over some scholars.
Or this kind of this idea that athletics, just by default, cannot be serious.
This is a persuasive point for what Dunkel's about to say, I guess, because it occurs to me that contemporary interpreters of the Aeneid have much less appreciation for athletics than the Romans.
I think that's true.
And the Greeks, right?
I think that's true of humanities academics writ large.
Yes, well, okay. Okay.
But no, couldn't that be true? Some kind of ingrained, because all the cool popular kids were the ones on the basketball team. And so you kind of grow up with kind of this fist shaking.
So you're making a broader social point.
I am.
If you went into academia, you may have had a little bit of a chip on your shoulder about athletics already.
I think, am I painting with too broad a brush?
No, I don't think so.
I'd say the captain of the football team, I don't think you find a lot of those in the higher halls of academia.
Andrew Luck, we've talked about him before.
Who's that guy?
Andrew Luck, former quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts, Stanford graduate.
Okay.
So not a dim bulb,
right?
And he got all the linemen reading the Iliad.
Oh, that's right. You told me about that, yeah.
I'd like to get him on the podcast.
Exactly.
Can't find him, but...
So Mr. Luck, the exception, not the rule.
Yes, exactly. He is the exception that tests the rule, that proves the rule.
Right.
So I think you're right. If you are a scholar and academic reading anything about athletics, it could be you're not taking them as seriously as an ancient audience would.
Sure.
For whom it was all consuming.
Exactly. And especially if you consider, what's the best way to honor someone who has just passed?
Right.
It's the performance of games.
Right.
How can that not be taken seriously?
Yep.
Right. So, all right, let me move on. Just a few more lines here. For instance, Dunkel writes, Susan Wiltshire has argued that the ship race in Book 5 is relatively free of meaning beyond the immediate release the games provide, while Steve Farron has called the games much more irrelevant to the epic's plot than the contests in Vergil's models. In view of these scholars, Vergil's games are an episodic digression from the epic narrative. Other voices, however, have suggested a more significant role for the games in the thematic structure of the Aeneid. In the early 1960s, Brooks Otis,
there he goes,
our guy,
yeah, Uncle Brooks,
all right, noted Books 5 anticipation of the Iliadic future in this otherwise Odyssean narrative. Now, I already like that.
Yes,
I like that. Yeah.
So because as we know, if I can just help the audience a little bit here, books 1 through 6 are called Odyssean, right? And books 7 through 12 are the Iliadic portion.
Yes.
Right. So the first 6 books of the Aeneid, Vergil is telling of sea voyages and all this kind of stuff. 7 through 12 is war in Italy.
Right.
So one of the ways that he pays homage to Homer, but innovates, is reversing the order.
Yes, exactly. Right. So Dunkel writes that Mr. Otis, Brooks, notes this anticipation of the Iliadic future specifically in book 9, which you were referring to at the top of the episode, right?
Right.
That we're hanging out to. So, and I'm gonna stop it there. I mean, the rest of it just kind of is just adds another couple of voices to that. But so Otis will be a scholar who says, no. There's a lot more going on here than just simply a break in the seriousness. Right?
Absolutely.
So I guess some scholars they like their Vergil serious and they want him to stay serious. They're uncomfortable with Vergil kind of delving into the lighter, into the comic.
Right. I think that's true. But Dunkel says they've partly missed the point. It's not simply that Book 5 is light, but Book 5 has significant themes in there as well that they have overlooked because of a prejudice against athletics having broader human significance.
Yeah.
Maybe that's going too far, but that's kind of how I read his comments. Can I read a little bit of the Brooks Otis that he references there?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You got it. You got it there.
Yeah, it's 2 opening quotes. And you can interrupt me, please, as often as I did you. So this is Brooks Otis, line 270. There is an undertone of calamity in the joy of Book 5. An undertone of joy in its calamity. Now, maybe that's a little too cute.
What I don't even get what he's aiming at there.
So Book 5, he says, quote, is a most subtle and complex composition in which nothing is quite what it appears at first sight to be.
Okay.
So the games are not just the games. They have a deeper meaning to the epic as a whole. And the events at the ships, the burning of the ships, they have a deeper meaning as well. And it's a mix of tragic and sad elements and lighthearted elements.
Yeah.
He says a final and in fact a final synthesis of both at the end. There are 2 central episodes, according to Otis: anniversary games and ship burning. So those are the 2 things that shape the whole book. Anniversary games, anniversary in honor of
Anchises.
Yeah, the death of Anchises.
Right.
It's the 1-year anniversary, right, of Anchises' death. They are surrounded by a prelude and a postlude in which the gods appear and enact their will through the helmsman Palinurus. The book is begun and closed by divine action.
Yeah. Exactly. And I would extend that by saying more or less the book is bookended by a ship race and ended with ship burning. Right.
Yes.
And so I think there is kind of a ring structure to the text that I think maybe a lot of people have missed because of there's been this sense that this is a book that should be dismissed.
Yeah, we'll go over it. We'll just kind of skip over it.
We'll skip over it, right? I'll give you the basics, but let's get to book 6.
Yeah, let's leave the TSA, but let's get to Hawaii. We're not going to really spend any time at the gate.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think we should start out, if it's okay, with reading a little bit of Latin right at the beginning of the book, and then we can talk about the character of Palinurus.
All right. So, Dave, read us some Latin there.
Okay, so I'm going to read the first couple lines down through the middle of line 4, and then pick it up in lines 11 and 12. Interea medi Aeneas iam classa tenebat, certus iter fluctus quatros aquilona secabat, moenia respiciens qua iam in felicis Elisae, conlucent flammis quae tan tacenderit ignem, and then down to lines 11 and 12. Noctia mem quaferens et inhorruit unde tenebris, ipsa gubernator pupi Palinurus ab alta.
Very nicely done.
I slipped up a couple times. I don't know if you heard that. Hopefully the audience didn't notice.
Are you going to beat yourself up about it?
Yes.
That's going to be a problem for the rest of the episode.
Yeah, for the rest of the night.
All right. But let me give you Lombardo's translation, which will also include the intervening lines.
Excellent.
Well. By now, Aeneas was out at sea with his fleet, holding course, the waves darkening under a cold north wind, and looking back at the walls of Carthage lit with the flames of Dido's pyre. The cause of the fire was hidden, but the terrible pain of a great love defiled, and knowledge of what a frenzied woman could do gave the Trojans grim presentiments. When the ships were out on the deep water, with no land in sight, but only sea and sky, a cobalt cloud loomed overhead, bringing night and storm, and the waves shuddered with shadows. Palinurus, the pilot, cried from the high stern, "Look at these storm clouds ringing the sky. What are you doing, Father Neptune?" So it starts, for a lighthearted book, it starts very darkly.
Yes, it does. Yeah, we have Aeneas pondering the death of his love, unhappy Elisae, in other words, Dido. We have the storm kicking up and Palinurus calling upon the gods right at the beginning. At the beginning, Pater Neptune.
Yeah. So this is, a storm gathering. It's almost become kind of a hackneyed device for bad things are on the horizon.
Right.
We have the weather suggesting bad things both above and below. And so, Virgil's not hiding this. Gave the Trojans grim presentiments. They know something bad is on the rise.
Yes.
And so, in some cases, we could see these games as we're going to take a complete left turn here. We're going to wash our hands. We're going to do something completely different. We're going to get our minds off everything that has just happened. Right. But you can only do that to a certain degree.
Yes. Little pop quiz.
Yeah.
John Fogerty song.
Yeah.
Which one?
There's a Bad Moon Rising.
There you go. Bad Moon Rising.
Exactly right.
Was that Creedence or Fogerty independent?
I believe that was Creedence, right?
Okay.
You know the famous mishearing of that lyric?
No.
There's a bad moon on the rise.
That's right.
There's a bathroom on the right.
That's a Mondegreen, right?
Mondegreen, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, I forgot about that term.
Died in your barn tonight. That was a good episode, by the way.
It was, yeah.
I had a Pellinurian moment the other day.
Please.
I was walking home from the Geim.
Yep.
And it just started pouring buckets.
Yeah.
Pouring buckets. And the lightning was cracking close. And I thought, what are the odds I'm going to get hit by lightning, right? Here they find me on the grass, struck by lightning.
Yeah.
I thought, should I take shelter here in, the large institutional building? I thought, nah.
And you stepped
I kept
out.
walking.
Yes.
Yes. It was there's a Latin adverb of which I'm particularly fond. Urceatim.
Urceatim.
It means raining buckets.
Raining buckets.
Yeah, coming down bucket by bucket. Isn't that nice?
That is great.
So that was ominous.
Yeah.
The sky was dark. It was glowering like Palinurus.
But it wasn't going to stop you.
Well, no, because I didn't have far to go, and I thought, I'm already drenched anyway.
Yeah.
The odds of getting hit by lightning are low.
Very small.
So I keep going.
Yes. But Palinurian nonetheless.
Palinurian.
Yep.
You encountered something like that before?
I remember kind of moments kind of driving where the rain is coming down so hard that the your windshield wipers can't even keep up with it.
Oh, that's terrible.
And you have no choice but to pull over or crash.
Underneath an overpass.
Yes.
Typically.
Yeah.
That's where people like to cluster.
It's true. It's true.
So the safe route is not to go on, but to stop again. And where are they going to stop?
They're going to stop in Sicily.
Okay.
Yep. So we learned that there is as we learned earlier.
Right.
There are Trojans there. Is it Acestes who's
That's
there?
correct.
He's the king of this local area.
That's right.
And that's where Anchises died and was buried. And they'll say we're going to stop here again.
Yeah, it is the site of the historical town of Egesta.
Yeah.
So Egesta was very important to the Romans because eventually they took over all of Sicily in the First Punic War.
Right, that's right.
So you got the Carthaginians down on the shores of North Africa, modern day Tunisia and Libya, and of course the Romans in Italy. Sicily was the coveted object in the First Carthaginian War.
Yes.
The Romans eventually took it after enormous struggle. So I think part of Vergil's purpose is to give us a little travelogue. These are the names of the places, and they're conveniently named after men from Aeneas's crew.
Right.
Which is funny. It's charming.
It is charming. No, I really, really like that a lot. Right. Did you get the sense that they said we have to stop, right? The weather is bad. The god looks like the Neptune's against us.
Right.
Do you think there's also the sense that, but there's a worry about, are we going to overstay our welcome? Acestes already gave us Xenia.
Right.
He welcomed us once. Is he going to be overjoyed to see us all, pulling through into the drive-through again? Right.
I don't have that sense, but
No?
it is a little bit reminiscent of Jason. And when they first sail away, I cannot remember the name of the island. We'll have to do a mini series on Apollonius of Rhodes.
Oh, fantastic! Yes.
Some of the hardest Greek ever written.
I've never read that one. Is it bad?
Well, I've never read more than 300-400 lines max. Not even a full book, but it is really difficult. Greek.
Okay.
It's challenging. So his Argonautica.
Yeah.
And Jason, I'm trying to remember the name of the island. I'll have to look it up during the break. They land on the island, right? They are welcomed. They sail away. They come back at night, and it's a case of mistaken identity.
Oh yeah.
And they fall to warfare, and they end up annihilating most of the inhabitants.
That's right. Yeah.
So this is similar, of course, but it's much more civilized because Virgil's a different poet, right?
Yeah.
He's the poet of civilization, right?
Right. I'm just thinking out loud. I wonder if for scholars who maybe don't care so much for this book, part of it is that it seems, maybe a little bit lazy on Virgil's part. Send them back to where they've already been.
Well, I think that's more of a modern obsession with originality.
Yeah, true.
I mean, we like to revisit. I like to revisit places that are familiar.
Oh, me too.
The same things that they experienced before don't happen here. There are new experiences in the same setting.
Yeah. Okay.
So maybe people feel that way, but I wouldn't find that a very legitimate criticism.
Yeah. Okay.
Go back to the same spot.
Right.
Acestes welcomes them, and then Aeneas realizes, hey, it's the 1-year anniversary of Dad's death.
Mm-hmm.
So let's celebrate. Let's not celebrate in the sense of have a good time. We need to mark it by something significant.
Right, and so thus the funeral games, right? And there are, the whole thing starts with a number of kind of ominous, well, not ominous portents, but lots of kind of signs, divine signs. The snakes that crawl out, from around the altar. There's all of these signs that Anchises' spirit seems to be very, very present at this moment. And he even shows he appears in a vision at the end of this book. So it's not just the games themselves, but it seems like this is ordained by the gods and by the spirits below, that this is a very good thing that needs to be done.
And preparatory for Book 6.
Yes.
Which is part of Brooks-Otis' point, and those who see in Book 5 more significance. Because, just to let the audience know, if they haven't read the Aeneid before, Book 6 is the descent into the underworld, the catabasis.
Yes.
And when Aeneas goes down there, of course, he meets his dad.
Right. As his dad in the vision in this book tells him, this is what you got to do.
That's correct.
Right?
So Book 5 is very important for those reasons.
It is. Yeah. What really struck me about this book, a number of things struck me about this book is beyond those opening lines, there's no more talk of Dido. There's no more talk of Carthage.
She does appear in Book 6.
She appears in Book 6, but I think that's this almost desperateness to forget that episode. I think that's part of this.
Well, this is part of, it's part of Aeneas moving on.
Yeah.
He can't get over Dido completely until he's gone through the events of this book.
Now, another thing that struck me is, did it strike you as odd that Aeneas himself does not participate in these games?
In a sense, yes, because the Homeric heroes do participate, do they not? Odysseus and Ajax have the agon over Achilles' armor.
Right.
But Achilles does not participate in the games. He is the one who sets the prizes. So in that sense, these men are so much larger than life that it's not a fair fight.
Yeah.
Right? Achilles can't compete necessarily because he's the swiftest by far. He's godlike. It's more like...
so you're saying it's almost beneath him?
Yes. Well, it wouldn't be fair. It's more like adults setting up the games for the kids.
Ah, okay. Fair enough. I mean, what struck me is that, I think maybe the obvious corollary is the funeral games, which Odysseus and Ajax are pitted against each other. But it also struck me that this also reminds me of the scene in, I forget which book it is in the Odyssey, where Odysseus competes with the young men of Phaeacia.
Oh, yes.
Before they know who he is.
Right.
And they're amazed by how this old guy is just running circles around them. So it struck me as, it frustrated me that Aeneas isn't participating because, again, he's such a cipher in so many ways.
Right.
So what makes him heroic? This would be a great chance for him to at least maybe win the javelin toss.
You want to get to know him. You want to see his excellence. That's reserved for the scene of battle, the Iliadic 7 through 12. I get what you're saying, but it's kind of like a superhero impulse, right? You're kind of hoping, come on, Aeneas, turn green, right? Do your thing. You're the greatest. Come on.
Let's see what you got.
But he won't.
But he won't do it.
No.
And instead, he's the master of ceremonies. Right? He's giving out gifts. He decides that in some ways everybody gets a trophy day.
That's right. The participation ribbon.
Yeah.
Right. He's pulling out the juice boxes, slicing the apples,
I thought it struck me also as maybe unintentionally comic about, where's all this stuff coming from, right? It reminds me.
Those are the questions you're not supposed to ask of the epic.
It reminds me, did you grow up watching Gilligan's Island?
Of course.
Right. And so the Howells have for a 3-hour tour they bought years worth of clothing.
That's right. Of course, I watched Gilligan's Island.
So Aeneas here, it's like his ships are like the USS Minnow.
Yeah.
And he's got crates full of this stuff that he's just giving away. Yeah.
Well, he's a stand-in for Augustus, right?
Right. Yeah, right.
And Augustus took the city of clay and turned it into a city of marble.
Right.
Or city of brick and turned it into a city of marble. So Aeneas, he's got to have the largesse.
Yes, exactly.
He's the swag master.
He is totally the swag master.
That's
in this
correct.
Episode, right?
I'd like to read a little bit of Ian Johnston.
Oh, I like Ian Johnston.
Does that name ring a bell?
He does. I use his translations and commentaries of tragedy all the time.
No, I'm talking about the guy who plays for Manchester United.
Oh, the
no, I'm not.
The striker?
I just made that up. I think Manchester United is a badminton club.
Yeah, that's what it is. Exactly.
So this is the funeral games in Homer, Iliad 23. And I think you'll see here there's some incredible resonance. First, Achilles set out prizes for swift charioteers. For the winner, a woman skilled in fine handicrafts and a tripod with handles holding 20 measures. For second place, he led out a mare 6 years old, unbroken, and with a mule foal in her womb. For the man who came in third, this is for the chariot race, he set out a cauldron untouched by fire. You know why? Because you can never scrub the fire and the grime off the bottom once you put it on the stovetop.
Very true.
A fine piece which held 4 measures. For fourth place, he set a prize of 2 gold talents, while the fifth place prize was a 2-handled bowl, once again not yet put on the fire.
Right, so the fifth place gets basically a water bottle.
That's right. An Achilles-themed water bottle.
We had to go from 2 gold talents down to a sippy cup.
Yeah, and a woman in the first place who's skilled in fine handicrafts should make you a pair of mittens or something like that.
Right, and I believe in Aeneid 5, there is a woman from Crete, Pholoe. I was drawn to just kind of that name.
Yeah, the interesting name.
And I think Vergil mentions that part of the draw is that she's skilled in handicrafts.
Yes, isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
It's very interesting that I suppose giving away a woman as a prize in sport is tasteless and immoral, unethical, and so forth. So I would never defend that. But the odd part about it is they're not really treated as objects of desire. I mean, maybe the men are going to use them in that way, not to be indecorous, but that's not how they're presented.
Not here.
They're presented as skilled in domestic tasks.
Right.
It strikes me as odd.
Yeah. I mean, maybe that's something to do with, never mind. I don't
Better not speculate.
Yeah, best not to speculate. Right?
Mm-hmm. Right. Speaking of mittens,
yes,
it's time for the ads.
Okay. This episode of Odd Navseam is brought to you by Ratio Coffee. Now, Dave, I think something we share is we both enjoy watching track and field.
Yes, I love it.
Track and field is my absolute favorite.
Really?
It's my favorite sport to watch.
Did you watch the World Championships in Oregon?
I did not.
You missed out on so much.
Oh, I know I did. We can talk about that later. But sometimes...
Well, hold on now.
Yes?
Can I interrupt you again?
Yeah.
Sorry.
I will bring this around to coffee, I promise.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think next summer the World Games are in Hungary.
Okay.
Let's have like the Ad Nauseam World Tour. We'll go to Hungary and watch the track and field championships.
That would be a dream for me.
Yeah. Is that where they invented goulash?
Exactly. Oh, man. The goulash. Goulash is
buckets
huge.
And buckets of goulash.
Sorry, was it Urkriatum?
Urkriatum. So, but the coffee.
But sometimes the problem is that, like you just mentioned, these championships are held many, many time zones away.
Right.
And sometimes I want to watch them live.
Yes.
And so I'm watching track and field at like 3 a.m, and it's hard to stay awake. So you know what I need? I need a good cup of coffee.
Need a good cup of coffee.
Right.
Well, one of the reasons to watch sporting events live is that inevitably you will find out the result accidentally if you watch it recorded or delayed.
Yes.
Right? You can tell, don't tell me what happened.
Exactly.
Because I'm gonna watch it as though it were live.
Yeah.
You just can't succeed.
You can't do it. It's so hard to avoid the spoiler.
That's right. But coffee can help.
It can help. So what you do is if you're watching the World Track Championships, they're taking place in Uzbekistan. You brew up your cup with your ratio 6 or your ratio 8.
Yes.
These wonderful state-of-the-art machines.
Now you like that country because it has your wife's name in it.
Uzbek. Maybe that's it. I never realized that. Yeah.
Because right there, Uzbekistan.
Right. I'm going to start calling her that. Yeah. She'll love that.
Just don't fault me for it.
So if you're gonna be drinking coffee that late or any time of the day, you want a machine that's not going to waste your time.
No.
Right. So both you and I currently we have the ratio 8.
That's right. You graduated from the 6.
I did. Mine's got the stainless steel finish.
Right. What did you do with the 6?
I still have it.
Oh, you're hoarding.
I still have it. Right. Well, my 8 has the hand blown borosilicate glass.
Oh, that's so nice.
Which is great, and particularly wonderful if you're drinking coffee right away.
Right.
But my 6 has that hulking flagon.
That's correct.
Which keeps the coffee warm without the scorch pad for hours.
You can get one of those for the 8.
I know.
You can upgrade.
I know.
Yeah,
I need to do that.
I'll hook you up with Mark here. So I'm going to read something a little bit, if I may.
Please.
From the Ratio Coffee blog.
Okay.
Do you know they have a blog?
I did not.
Quote, one of the tricky things about brewing fresh coffee is that when water comes into contact with the grounds, they let out a bunch of trapped gases.
Oh, no.
Mostly in the form of carbon dioxide. If not properly accounted for, these gases can have a pretty big impact on the resulting brew.
Wow.
Luckily, your ratio handles this for you, whether you knew it or not.
Is he talking about the Bloom stage?
That's right. Here we go. The term, you're getting excited, aren't you?
I am.
The term used to describe this reaction between grounds and water is bloom.
Bloom.
And it's no coincidence that all ratios have a bloom phase of their brewing process.
It's the first stage.
It is the first stage. To illustrate why this is so valuable, you can simply compare what it's like to brew coffee with and without a bloom. To give you a good view of what's going on, try simply brewing 2 batches of pour-overs in the ratio glass carafe.
Wow.
And then you'll find, with bloom and without bloom, there's no comparison. So you want a bloom.
Ratio is so confident. They say, test it yourself.
Exactly.
Right. Don't take our word for it.
Right.
Yeah. So these
are... Like that old Clara Peller commercial, right?
Where's the beef?
Where's the bloom?
Where's the bloom? So listeners, if you want one of these wonderful machines, you can go to ratiocoffee.com. And you can choose either the 6 or the 8 or both if you want.
Yeah. It's an heirloom piece.
It's an heirloom piece.
It's not like you're going to buy it and throw it away in a month, a year, a decade.
No way.
You're going to have it. It is so consistent.
It is so consistent every time. Great coffee. So find your machine, type in your coupon code ANCOV4.
ANCO, so ad nauseum coffee V4.
V4, and that will get you 15% off whatever you order.
Yeah, check it out. This episode is also brought to you by Hackett Publishing. Now, the good folks of Hackett Publishing, with offices in both Indianapolis, Indiana, which is in the Central Time Zone.
That's true. Well, Indiana's split. They have that weird thing where like half is east and half central. It's really annoying.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure that Indianapolis is
central.
Okay,
yes, please go on.
Yeah, Cambridge, Massachusetts is the Eastern Time Zone.
Yes.
They have offices there, and they ship high-quality classics themed and other kinds of books around the country, and they've been doing so for 50 years.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
The golden anniversary.
Yep. That's this year, right? I love Hackett. I love how they took a chance with a couple of knuckleheads like us.
Right.
They've been with us from the pretty much the very beginning.
It's going on 2 years now.
Yeah.
In fact, it is 2 years.
It is. It's been almost exactly 2 years.
We called them up and said, hey, we got this little podcast. We get what? Maybe 1 download per day.
Right.
Half a download.
Exactly. And that's my mom, right?
Yeah. The next day is my mom. Would you like to support? And they said, what? Classics? We're on it.
We're in.
We'd love it.
We're in.
Yeah.
Yes. There was no hemming. There was very little hawing.
No hemming or hawing.
Right. So I love these guys.
Yeah.
And I love how faithful they've been to this podcast. And I love their product too.
It's fantastic. I'm at the website right now, and I'm looking at 3 sample items. So the first is, on the left side, The Greco-Persian Wars, a short history with documents by Eric Jensen. This is from their series called Passages, Key Moments in History. So they're trying to give you an eyewitness front seat look at these important moments. Right next to it is Nazi Crimes and Their Punishment by Michael Bryant, 1943 to 1950. So about the Nuremberg trials, right?
Wow.
So you got the Greco-Persian Wars, source documents, right next to it, Nazi crimes, so something in the 20th century. And then the third one is the Indian Rebellion, 1857 to 1859. So I think this is about the British presence in the Indian subcontinent. A short history with documents by James Fry.
Fantastic.
So, what a smorgasbord of high-quality material.
And these spotlights and these really key moments in world history.
Fascinating.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Right.
So, as we've said countless times on this podcast, I've used Hackett in my classroom. I have the Hackett books on my shelf. Clever artwork. My students love them, both for the translation, but they're so affordable.
Right.
They're not gonna jack up the price.
No, break the bank. But they don't compromise quality.
No.
The scholarship is excellent. The volumes are attractive.
Yes.
So, listener, this is what you should do. In our humble opinion, go to Hackett Publishing, HACKETT.com. Check out their wide selection. Make your own selections. Put them into the little grocery satchel.
Yes.
And when you get to checkout, you need to put a coupon code in there.
Yes, and that code is AN2022.
AN2022. And what will that get you, Jeff?
That will get you 2 wonderful things. 20% off your entire order.
Wow.
And free shipping.
Check it out.
Do it. All right, Dave. So as we get back into it, we should probably get to some of these actual games we've been talking about. Right. So it starts with a ship race.
Yes, a regatta.
A regatta, exactly. And would you read a little Latin before we dig into the meat of this? Yes.
Because can you just set the stage a minute? So for those who are familiar with the Latin, they're going to be able to understand some of what I'm saying. They're going to hear it if they have a little context.
Yes. So Aeneas calls the ship race, and 4 competitors step forward. We have Menestheus, Gaius, Sergestus, and Cloanthus, and and each of them has a big fast ship, and each ship is named as well.
Yeah.
It's really, really quite cool.
Right, and they got to go out to sea. They got to round a rock and come back again. Is that right?
Yep.
Okay. So I'm going to read a little bit of Latin here, starting in line 114. I think I'll read, 5 or 6 lines. Prima pares in eunt gravibus certamina remis, quatuor ex omni delectae classa cerdrinae, velo chem nesteus aget acri remiga pristim, moxitulus nesteus genus aquo nomina memmi, ingen temque geas in genti molacim iram. Urbis opus triplici pubesquam dardana versu, impellunt terno consurgunt ordina remi, sergestusque domus tenet aqua surgia nomen, centaur vehitur magnas gelaque cloanthus, cae rulea genus unditibir romana cluenti.
Nicely done.
Thank you. I did more than 6 or 7 because
You did.
It's so much fun, and we got to get all those names in there.
It's good. So
Jeff, what does it mean?
Here's Lombardo's rendering of that. 4 ships entered the first contest, well matched in oarage, the pride of the fleet. The swift Leviathan was captained by Menestheus. Now, I don't have the Latin in front of me.
That's pristim.
How was that Leviathan?
I don't know.
Okay.
I'm going to have to do some research on that.
Okay.
I don't think it's a bad translation. I think pristis is an unknown sea creature.
Okay, I got you. Okay. So the swift Leviathan was captained by Menestheus, namesake of the Italian clan of Memmius. Gaius commanded the huge Chimera, a trireme the size of a city. Wow.
Pretty big.
That's very big. Rowed by Dardanian youths sweeping their oars in 3-ordered tiers and propelling her on. Sergestus, namesake of the house of Sergius, rowed in the great Centaur. And Scylla, a sea blue vessel, carried Cloanthus, whence your family, Roman Cluentius.
Mm-hmm. So you know what he's doing, right? He's saying that these are the great ancestors of famous Roman aristocratic houses.
Aha.
Like Memmius and Cluentis and Sergius, right? So it's a way, what do they call this? I heard this term recently. It's fan service.
Ah, fan service, right.
Have you heard that before?
Sure, exactly. It's like at the end of the latest Ghostbusters film, a few of the original Ghostbusters show up.
Right, we talked about this, I
We
think.
did, yeah, exactly. Yeah, pure fan service.
Right, because his audience, his aristocratic audience, hey, that's my great-great-grandfather. Now, they didn't necessarily believe it was, but they've been written into this epic story.
Yes.
It's very interesting.
It is, right. I wonder if that weighed on Vergil a little bit. Is, okay, I'm going to bring these well-known families into this, but also one of them has to be the winner.
That's
right?
true.
Exactly. Is he?
Right.
Is he?
It's distant enough, maybe.
I guess so.
It's distant enough. I thought you were going to say, I wonder if it weighed on him as though he were compromising his craft.
Oh.
By doing so.
I don't know. Yeah, maybe.
I doubt it.
I don't think so either. This is it's so well described.
Yes.
And I mean the action scenes they pull you right in.
Now tell me about Vin Scully.
Vin Scully?
Yeah.
Recently
I know the name. He was sportscaster basketball?
No, baseball.
Oh, see, yeah, I don't know what I'm talking
So
about.
he was for years and years the voice of the Los Angeles Dodgers. But he was also one of these guys that, when it came down to playoff time, you'd find Vin Scully in the booth because I just had one of those great voices, and he was famous for his ability to kind of know when to fill the gap with commentary and know when to back off.
Yeah,
right?
when to be quiet.
So one of his most famous calls which is in my opinion the greatest moment in Major League Baseball history.
Oh, really?
When Kirk Gibson hit his famous home run playing for the Dodgers, 1988 in the World Series. Guy can barely walk. And he comes up against Gibson, right?
Wasn't he with the Tigers?
He was for many years, right? And it's kind of at the end of his career, his body was beat up, and Tommy Lasorda sends him in to pinch hit in this world. I think it was Game 2 of the World Series against the great Dennis Eckersley, the great closer.
You know a lot about baseball.
I love baseball. I love baseball. And he golfs one into the stands, and it was what we call a walk-off homer. It's like it ends the game.
Yeah.
And he's shuffling around the bases. And he can barely walk, and he's pumping his arm. It's fantastic. YouTube.
See it on YouTube.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Scully, who was calling that game, famously, once Gibson hits the home run, he says nothing, and he lets the crowd go crazy and just kind of let the scene speak for itself. Where
That's
I think
wise.
many other announcers would try to fill that space.
Joe Buck.
Yeah.
He'd been all over it, right?
He'd been all over it, right? So, but we bring up Vince Scully
Yes.
because a lot of these passages when Vergil to kind of describe the action, he sounds like Vince Scully in the booth. Yeah, it's great. Yeah.
Can I read a little bit of the Lombardo here? About Gaius?
Exactly, right.
All right, so they set off on the Regatta. Are you a boat guy? You a sailing guy?
No, I mean, I grew up, my grandfather had a motorboat and such, but
Right.
I was never my thing.
I've always wanted to take one of those barefoot cruises
Oh, yeah.
where you're down in the Caribbean and they teach you how to sail.
That would be fascinating.
Yeah, I'm afraid I'd get thrown in the brig or something, though. Stranded on a desert island with, one barrel of rum and some hardtack.
Exactly. Or tossed off the boat, which happens in the scene. Right.
All right, so Gaius took the lead first, slipping through the waves amid all the roaring. Cloanthus was next, with better rowers, but a heavier ship. Then equally far behind, Leviathan and Centaur battled for third. Leviathan would pull ahead, then huge Centaur would pass her by, and then they would sail neck and neck and cleave the salt sea with their curving keels.
It's like a horse race.
It is.
Yes.
And it's a fantastic translation.
Yes.
It's wonderfully rapid.
Agreed.
They were drawing close to the rocky turn when Gaius, the leader on the course, called out to his ship's pilot, Menoetes, "Why are you going so far to the right? Steer this way. Hug the shore. Let the oars scrape the rock on the left. The others can have the deep water."
Right. So Gaius says, you gotta make that turn tight.
Right.
Man. Get as close to the rock as you possibly can.
Right.
And
to save time.
To save time, right. So Menoetes is playing the safe route and kind of going out into the deep water to slow things down.
And what's going to happen?
Well, Gaius gets very upset. And this is, I think, the first kind of real, at least semi-comic moment.
Okay.
Right, where Gaius finally gets so upset and he pushes Menoetes, his pilot, off the boat and into the water.
Right, where he bobs there, right? He's bobbing. Can you read some of Lombardo there?
Yeah.
With the salt in his beard and I guess the spray in his eyes.
Right. So, so Gaius, he's taking this really, really serious.
Right.
And so Lombardo says, he pushed the sluggish Menoetes off the stern and into the sea head first and took the rudder himself. Urging on his crew, the captain, now pilot, turned the prow toward shore. Menoetes, heavy and old, bobbed up from the depths and pulled himself out, dripping wet onto the rock, and sat there. So he had to pull himself on the rock he was trying to avoid.
Yes.
Right.
So he's the example of the seasoned old athlete who's too conservative.
Yes.
Right. So sometimes the seasoned old athlete we're going to see in the boxing match has the upper hand and is more than a match for the inexperienced person. But sometimes you become a little long in the tooth.
Yep.
You're not willing to take any of the risks that you would have jumped at when you were young.
Exactly. Your reactions are slower, right?
Correct.
Exactly. Right. So, and Lombardo continues that the Trojans laughed when he fell, laughed as he swam, and were laughing now as he vomited up buckets of seawater.
Oh, that's terrible. This would be on Fail Army, wouldn't it?
On what?
You don't know Fail Army?
No, is it like Funniest Home Videos or something?
Kind of, but more grim.
Oh, really?
This is people trying to ride their bicycles down the stairs. This is the unicycle ones and the skis are the worst.
Oh no, just make you cringe.
It's awful.
Yeah.
I started watching some when I was in London several years ago with my son because it was the only thing on television that was
Fail Army
relatively wholesome.
I gotcha. Right. Yeah.
And yeah, it's like America's Funniest Videos, but they're all mostly people attempting to do physically dramatic and demanding things and failing.
Yeah. That sounds like something I need to check out.
You should check it out.
Right. So, I mean, it's a comic scene. I mean, Vergil he's describing people laughing at this poor guy.
Right.
But it also struck me as, if we're connecting the light and the dark.
Right.
Is this not in some ways a foreshadowing of what happens to Palinurus? Right. He falls off the ship too.
Oh, you gave it away. We
what?
didn't tell anybody that he fell off the ship.
Oh, people don't know this?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
It's right at the end of book 5.
We said it's very hard to avoid spoilers.
That's true. It is very hard to avoid. You drank more coffee, Yes, Palinurus gets thrown in the deep.
Yes.
But it happens because the gods take him as a sacrifice. Here, in a comic way, Menoetes goes under.
Right.
So, Jeff, what happens next in the yacht race and who wins?
Well, with that guy thrown off, it kind of it slows Gaius down for a bit.
Okay, understandably.
Yeah, and so Menestheus and Sergestus, two of the other guys, now they see an opening.
Okay,
right? So they're gonna go for it. They're urging their men to kind of lean on those oars and get closer and closer and closer. Sergestus goes in way too close on the turning point.
So he commits the other kind of fault.
Right.
Right. So is this kind of the Aristotelian mean?
Yeah.
Right. Meden agon, don't do anything in excess.
Yes.
The first guy, Gaius's helmsman Menoetes, I'm going to steer
way too far out.
Far way out. And the other guy says, no, I'm going to tack right next to the rock.
Yep.
And get a big advantage. And what happens to him?
He runs aground.
Okay.
Right. And so he's pretty much out of it.
All right.
And so then Menestheus slips through and he passes Gaius.
Okay.
He's the guy who tossed his pilot out.
Right.
And then there's one more guy to chase down. That's Cloanthus. Right? And he's in the Scylla. Is that right?
Yes, he's in the Scylla.
Right. So which
you want your boat to have a monster name.
And he also in terms with Scylla, right, represents half of that gap that you're supposed to slip between Scylla and Charybdis.
That's
right?
correct,
Right?
no doubt. So you're driving what is it, Toyota these days?
It's a Honda.
It's a Honda, sorry.
Yeah.
Do you have a name for it, like a monster name? What is it?
We named it, actually, it's quite the opposite. We named it after a beloved neighbor who passed away.
Oh, this is kind of taking a...
We call that car Gertie.
Okay.
Right. And our van we call Lois, after Lois Lane. Right.
Interesting.
That was Uzbekistan's. That was her idea. Right? Yeah. Do you have nicknames for your vehicle?
No, we don't. No. We did when we were traveling cross country. We named them the Odyssey and the Argo.
Oh, nice.
Just for fun.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking now that my vehicles should have these kind of monstrous, aggressive names like the Scylla and, the Centaur and so forth.
But it would have to match in size and shape. Name a Honda Civic, Leviathan.
Then the incongruity is funny.
It's funny, exactly.
Right. Leviathan.
Right.
Beep, beep.
We got to finish the race, though.
Okay, sorry.
Right. So
getting distracted.
Menestheus he's gaining on Cloanthus, and it looks like he's going to overtake them. But then Cloanthus, has been the lesson through many of these books, he's religiously correct. And he decides, I'm going to pray to the gods, and maybe that's going to carry me over the finish line. So he prays to the gods of the sea.
Is that right?
What do you mean?
In a moral sense, should you do that? Is it okay to pray to the gods for trivial things?
In this epic, absolutely.
Okay.
Right.
Maybe it's not trivial.
Right.
Maybe that's the difference.
Right.
Right. As a Christian, I tend not to pray for trivial things, right?
Right.
Because it just seems sacrilegious, Mm-hmm. And I don't go to the fridge, may the milk not be spoiled, right? That seems kind of, I don't want to bother God with something so trivial.
No, I mean, it is kind of a cliche and a joke about how you interview the quarterback after they win the Super Bowl,
right?
And they thank God for smiling on their cover 2 defense or whatever.
Doesn't that sit wrong?
I don't like it.
So what's the difference here?
Well, it's a polytheistic system.
Is that enough to explain it?
I think so. And you take it you take the advantage of one god's favor over another. The gods these kinds of gods are so more human than human, right?
They're fickle.
They're fickle, and they want to win too, right?
Maybe another way to explain it, if I may, is that to them sports is not trivial.
Well, good point.
If to them sports is not trivial, then you should pray to the gods for victory in athletics because this is serious business.
Right. There's not a separation between religion and badminton.
That's right.
In this, yeah. So Cloanthus, his prayers are answered, and it's like the Nereids and the mer people of the sea pick up his boat and carry him into the harbor of first place. It's it's a nice kind of fantastical scene.
Yes, Disney would do something with that probably.
Yeah, ready made.
Mm-hmm.
And so Cloanthus wins, and Aeneas is there to do all the kind of the crazy prizes that he has in these bottomless trunks that he's carried for so many months now, right? And what kind of things are given out? What are some of the prizes? Maybe we should detail those for the audience for just a minute. So I'll give you Lombardo's translation here. It says, "Then Aeneas, true son of Anchises, summoned all the crews in ritual fashion, and proclaiming Cloanthus the victor, wreathed his brows with fresh green laurel." So
wait a minute.
What?
That's it?
Well, no, there's more coming.
There's just green laurel?
No, there's way more coming.
When you ran the Chicago Marathon?
Yeah.
Twice, right?
I did Chicago once, Grand Rapids once.
Okay.
Yeah.
You won, I assume.
I did not.
Okay.
I was way behind.
Did they give you a bagel at the end or something?
There was beer, there was bagel, there was cheese, there was no, there wasn't cheese. That was awful. There was lots of stuff to eat. But I do remember when I ran it with a couple of friends, and we got to roughly the halfway point, or mile 13, and the buzz through the crowd started to spread that the winner had just crossed the finish line.
Oh, and you were at what, mile 5? Was it?
Mile 13.
Mile 13.
Yeah, so halfway through.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
But they were not running for just a laurel crown.
Who are we talking about?
The marathoners in these events, they were running for big cash prizes.
Oh yes,
right?
Well, the elite athletes, of course. Right?
Yes,
right. I was running just to hopefully finish the thing, right? Right. So I mean, the fresh green laurel, it's like an Olympic victory, right?
And that's the honor and the glory, the kleos.
But there's more stuff to come.
Okay.
Right. So and then He had each ship select 3 bullocks and gave to each wine and a great bar of silver. The 2 leading captains
a bar of silver?
A bar of silver?
Okay.
Yeah.
What are they going to do with that?
I don't know. Cash it in for dollars? I don't know.
Okay.
Right?
You don't have to get testy.
I'm not testy. I'm feeling good. The 2 leading captains he singled out with special honors. To the victor, he gave a gold embroidered cloak with a wavy border of Melobean port purple and the woven design of a royal youth on wooded Mount Ida. That's a little bit more information than I need particularly, but it's a fancy cloak.
They don't like that detail?
It's all right. It's just it's a little much.
Okay.
And then it goes on. A boy keen in the hunt, chasing down stags with his javelin. As he ran out of breath, an eagle of Jove swooped down from Ida to snatch him up in his hooking talons.
It's Ganymede.
It is. This is what we call an ekphrasis.
I was just going to say that.
Yes, exactly. Where the work of art kind of comes alive and tells its own story.
That's right. And I was going to say, how could you put it down with your "this is more information than I need"? This is what makes a poet great.
I changed my mind.
Okay,
good. I love a good ekphrasis.
Okay, you remember when Ovid describes the doors of the palace of the sun?
Yes.
That's a good ekphrasis.
It is. The shield of Achilles, right? Perhaps the most famous one.
Right, book 18 of the Iliad.
Going on, the boy's aged guardians lifted their palms in vain to the stars, and his dogs barked at the wind. So that's all about that cloak there.
Okay.
To Menestheus, who won second place, Aeneas gave a corselet with burnished links interwoven with triple meshed gold that he himself had stripped from Demoleus by the rushing Simois under Ilium's wall. So kind of a plunder from the Trojan War.
War prize.
Yeah.
So he gets this corselet.
Yeah.
Could you wear that to parties, or what could you do with that?
I think it's an all-purpose corselet, right? For casual and formal events alike, right?
It's business casual. Wear the corselet.
So it goes on and on and on. There's cauldrons, there's cups, there's more corselets. He's just handing out prizes. He's the candy man here.
Right.
Right.
This shows his generosity, his piety, genuine love for his men.
And he's kind of like, he's routinely referred to as God is born.
Right.
But he's acting in kind of a godlike fashion here, giving out these favors, from the throne, as it were. But Dave, I think we got to stop.
I think that's a good place to wrap it up. But also, we have to get out of here, right?
Right. It's not just a good place to wrap it up. We're under duress.
We're under pressure and duress. What's going on?
Well, we got the crew coming in to kind of vacuum out or whatever they do to get rid of that brackish tang.
Oh, that brackish tang that haunts us.
It does. It follows us around like a miasma.
Oh, yes.
As the Greeks would say.
Right. And if the vomitorium isn't routinely debracked, we got trouble.
It is. It would be impossible for us to even do this thing.
So the cleaning crew's coming in to clean out all the brackish tang.
Right.
Then we're good to go for next week.
Yes, and we these guys. They're all business. They don't like us hanging around.
Yeah, get out of here already.
All right.
This tang isn't going to unbrack itself, you know?
Exactly right.
We got some people to thank.
As always, Dave, who should we thank?
I think that we ought to thank Mishka, who is our sound engineer, who puts this all together so nicely and so rapidly.
She's our Palinurus, but who does not fall off the ship.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And I think she does it with good cheer.
She does.
I think so.
Yep.
Okay. We need to thank our wonderful musicians.
Yes, Scott Van Zen and Ken Tamplin.
That's right.
Amazing musicians, amazing guitar playing from Scott, and Ken's vocals are unmatched.
Yeah, he also plays the guitar. If you like to listen to instrumental guitar and you are a Spotify kind of person, you can go check out Scott's album No Words, which is a really lovely instrumental guitar. And he's just really nice
and fantastic. And Ken, while he's famous for his vocal academy too, he's no slouch on the guitar himself.
Oh, he's quite impressive.
Yes, fantastic.
So we're thankful that they let us use this music with such generosity, free of charge. If you like the show and you'd like to get a shout out like our friend Matt Bell at the beginning of the episode, send us an email.
Yes, you can write to Dave at dave@adnauseam.com. Don't forget the V.
Or you can write to Jeff at adnauseam.com. We will reply. I don't think we have failed to reply to any emails. I don't think so.
No.
We try to be very diligent about that. Sometimes it's not right away.
Right.
But we try. What if they want a t-shirt?
Oh, well, go to adnauseam.com. Again, don't forget the V and check out the swag.
Yeah, the Lurch with Merch.
The Lurch with Merch link. And show your love for the podcast. Get yourself one of these really sharp looking.
Yeah, the Ad Nauseam t-shirt. You can pick up an Erasmian themed Quai No Kent, Do Kent.
Yeah.
The things that hurt help. We would love to see you sporting one of these t-shirts.
Right. And next week, Dave, hopefully we'll get to the end of book 5.
I think we will.
Yeah.
I think this is a 2-episode book. Maybe we stretch it into 3. We'll just kind of see what happens.
We have to see how it goes.
Right, because it's so much fun.
Right. And Dave, you have our gustatory parting shot.
I do. And I don't know if this one is so funny. It's a little grim, maybe, but we'll see. This is from a woman named Susan Juby. The Republic of Dirt. A Return to Wofield Farm.
All right.
I don't know much about it or anything but that. And this is what she says. Got anything to eat? I asked. You know where the gas station is, said my incredibly nurturing and maternal mother.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks.